Topping today's news, a shooting in the Grantstown community takes the life of another young man and leaves two others with serious injuries. NEMA gets the country ready for the possibilities of Hurricane Lee. The battle of BPSU president turns former friends into foes. And the U.S. Embassy paving the way for U.S. enterprises to invest in the Bahamas. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jcn. This is your JCN Evening News. It is a pleasure to have you join us. Police are actively investigating a shooting incident that occurred on Comfort and Hay Street in Grantstown shortly after 9 p.m. on Thursday. One of the victims is deceased, one is in serious condition, and the other in stable condition. According to initial reports, the victims were all standing at the front of a sports bar when the occupants of a dark-colored Japanese vehicle drove up alongside them when the occupants opened fire in their direction. The assailants fled the scene traveling east on Hay Street. The first victim, a 20-year-old male, suffered multiple gunshot injuries about the body and succumbed to his injuries after being transported to the hospital by the emergency medical services. The second victim, a 36-year-old male, suffered gunshot injuries to his arm and lower extremities and remains in serious condition, while the third victim, a 23-year-old female, suffered gunshot injuries to her forearm and is in stable condition. Again, police are appealing to members of the public who may have any information that can assist with this investigation to contact the police at 911, 919. You can call Criminal Investigations Department, that's CID, or Crime Stoppers at 328-TIPS, 328-8477. Also from the crime front, an adult male has been hospitalized after being stabbed in the vicinity of Lifeboy Street and Plantall Street on Thursday. Preliminary reports indicate that sometime around 3 p.m., a group of males confronted a 38-year-old victim after an earlier argument. Among the group, a male wearing a white t-shirt and red trousers stabbed the victim multiple times about the body before they fled the area towards East Street. The victim was transported to the Princess Margaret Hospital by an ambulance for medical attention. His condition is unknown at this time. With all islands watching the now Category 5 Hurricane Lee move across the Atlantic Ocean, the acting deputy director at the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Ms. Gail Ouden-Moncur, says the agency is confident in its action plan in the event Hurricane Lee becomes a threat to the Bahama Islands.
If it shifts, the action plan for NEMA is we're always ready and waiting because we're always monitoring. So we're monitoring the storm to see what's happening, which one of the islands it would affect first of all. And as we speak now, we've been in connection with all of our family island administrators to ensure that they're in a state of readiness, making sure that they understand what needs to happen in any event that they may have to move persons from one section to the next or from one island to the other.
She advises residents on all islands that your hurricane preparations should already be completed.
Knowing where your personal documents are, so you'd be able to put those in what we call a waterproof bag. Also, discuss with your family members, your children, what will happen if you have to move, where you're going to go, know your phone numbers, know what's going to be happening, which area you're going to be in. But most of all, we know that there's something out there. You should already have your disaster food items within your home, so you can start doing that now. Don't wait until the day before. Let's go to the food stores and get those things now, because you want to get your water items, your other food items that you would need, especially your medication. So those who are on medication, we want to make sure that you have your medication available and you'd be able to move with those things when necessary.
According to the latest statement from the Department of Meteorology, Hurricane Lee is expected to maintain its intensity with sustained winds up to 150 miles per hour. Lee is moving towards the west-northwest near 14 miles per hour. On the forecast track, Lee is expected to pass well to the north of the northern Leeward Islands and the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico over the weekend. Dangerous beach conditions are expected to develop around the western Atlantic throughout the early parts of next week. Mariners and residents should closely monitor the progress of this hurricane system. Newly appointed Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources Jomo Campbell, speaking on leaving his post as Minister of State for Legal Affairs, is confident that his absence will not affect progress towards reducing the backlog in the legal system. Minister Campbell spoke of his confidence in the staff that remains at Legal Affairs.
Every change always affects process. What I can say is that a foundation has in fact been put in place, restructuring. As you would know, we are now up to an 84% conviction rate. I'm very proud of that. We've taken steps to boost morale, ensure the confidence, ensure the retention in our attorneys, our prosecutors, expanding the courts, even now getting the process underway for a new court complex. What I would say is that the persons who I am in fact leaving behind are competent. They are also excited about continuing what was started under the Davis administration. And so I feel as though the Ministry of Legal Affairs will definitely be in finance.
Asked about criticism by some that the government introduced too much legislation in the previous session of Parliament, Minister Campbell says Prime Minister Philip Davis is expected to expand on that front.
Well, we will definitely hear more from that in the speech from the throne. I know that that is a process that is still actively in formation with the Attorney General and our other colleagues from different ministries. As we know, each ministry will grow and evolve over time. And so even since the House was prorogued to the 4th of October when we are expected to reopen Parliament, there will definitely be a lot of new ideas and new changes to the legislative agenda. I'm sad to be leaving the Ministry of Legal Affairs after, I spent 18 years in private practice, so law is sort of a passion for me, but also excited to be into this new ministry, which is of extreme importance to the country, and as Minister Sweeting said earlier, a very important part of our blueprint for change.
That was the new Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources, Jomo Campbell. In April, John Pinder, the former president of the Bahamas Public Service Union, the BPSU, announced that he will run for the union's presidency once again when the elections are held on September 27th. Since that announcement, the BPSU presidential battle between Mr. Pinder, incumbent Kingsley Ferguson, and leader of the power team, Alexander Burrows, has been a fierce one. On Tuesday this week, while a guest on Love 97 radio talk show Issues of the Day with host Kristen Jones, Mr. Ferguson accused Mr. Pinder of misappropriating members' funds. When Mr. Pinder called into the show to defend himself, Mr. Ferguson then called him a gangster and a crook. Well, on Thursday, Mr. Pinder and his team, they were on the Issues of the Day talk show and sought to clarify his name, particularly as it relates to Mr. Ferguson's claim that he took $5,000 of a member's funds for his personal use.
The money talking about the $5,000. I was still president when he came to me and said, this man said he wanted his money back because he was not reinstated. So I said, well, for him to say he was not reinstated, he would have had to put in a claim and it was rejected. I said, ask him what claim he put in, it was rejected. How do you know he's not reinstated? Anyway, when we look at his record, he was with the medical for many, many years. He didn't have much claim. So we say, no offense to him. We will reinstate him, but we will do a special schedule of benefit for him. Like anything related to the prostrate, within 12 months, we'll only pay 50%, that sort of thing. He tried to have the old guy.
He received any of those benefits?
Fortunately, he didn't put any claim in. But apparently, Mr. Ferguson must have tried to make the man think that he was not reinstated, even though he had a reinstatement letter. Kingsley won the election. As president, you get a 50% gratuity at the end of your time. He says to me that he went through the books. And he didn't see where I deposited the 3 years later,
Right.
So he didn't see where I deposited the $5,000. I said in the video, not saying $5,000, because I requested 2 weeks vacation. And because the cash was there, the then accountant, Ms. Pickstock, wrote the check to me, and I just cashed the check in the funds, and the balance went to the bank. And he was present when I was cashing the check. So he didn't lie when he said he see me going to money. He was present. I called him as president to make sure he knew I was in the skullduggery. He twisted around, made people think I was some thief doing something untoward. That's why I tell you, I think he lost anointing. He lost anointing. That ain't the man who I know. He lost anointing. He's a very dishonest person.
That was Bahamas Public Service Union presidential candidate John Pinder defending himself against accusations by incumbent President Kingsley Ferguson, who accused him of misappropriating membership funds. Again, the BPSU elections will be held Wednesday, September 27th, with the new board serving a 3-year term. And finally, in this segment, this September, the U.S. Embassy and Bahamian business representatives will join forces to promote new and increased U.S. investments in the Bahamas. Miami, Florida, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Reston, Virginia will host conferences for thousands of U.S. businesses to learn about foreign investment opportunities in the region. The U.S. Embassy is particularly excited to announce that for the first time, the Bahamas will participate in the largest North American Clean Energy Conference, RE Plus 2023, September 11th to the 14th. RE Plus 2023 aims to connect renewable industry buyers with sellers. Participation in the RE Plus conference complements Vice President Kamala Harris' historic visit to the Bahamas, where she focused on clean energy initiatives under the U.S.-Caribbean Partnership. The RE Plus 2030 will not be the only opportunity in September to showcase all the Bahamas has to offer the U.S. enterprises. Reston will also attract different U.S. enterprises at their business conference set for September 17th to the 19th, and the U.S. Embassy's participation will ensure that the Bahamas remains top of mind for U.S. companies looking to expand overseas. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.